Well, I know I've told you this before, but it's been a long time, so I'm going to tell it again. And that is that my boss, Dr. Joseph Peck, requires whoever works for him that every morning we are expected to write down 5 things from the day before for which we are grateful. Well, this is actually a great exercise because, for one thing, the scientists tell us that anxiety and gratitude cannot both occupy the human mind at the same time. One will drive out the other. So if we just try to think of what we're grateful for, it's not quite as effective because when we are writing it down, it requires concentration, and that gives the bootaroo to the anxiety, okay? Which is very valuable in this day and time, considering everything the world is going through, and all of it affects us in one way or another. So I appreciate my boss, Dr. Joseph, for requiring that of us, and it does help produce a grateful heart. But in this church, there are lots of grateful hearts, and we know this because our church is actually funded by grateful hearts who give. Do you understand how unusual it is that a church does not tell the people how much to give, nor do we look at what people say they're going to give on the pledge card? It's a big deal, okay? And it proves that we are thankful to God for what we have here among ourselves, okay? That's not really exactly a part of my message, but it's very, very important that we know that when you fill out, and by the way, those are in the pew in front there with the hymnal and the Bible and everything. If you haven't got one yet, go ahead and get it. But once you fill that out and put it in the envelope, the only one who actually reads the card is God himself. Sherry is responsible to peek in the envelope and make sure there's no check or money or anything, no cash in there. She says she doesn't even do that. But she's not reading your card, okay? We're just checking because that happened that time with Siri's mom who wrote the check for the whole year and then it wasn't cashed for months. She says, are you people ever going to cash that check? So anyway, funny things happen as a result, but that's just my little preamble, okay? Because what we really want to talk about today is the fact that gratitude has more than one expression. We just talked about one, which is giving, and that's a great one, okay? But what I was challenged to do today was to share with you 3 stories. Each of these stories has a different expression of gratitude in it. One of them, thank you. Oh, well, that's basic, isn't it? Yeah. And another one, a 2-way street. Well, what could that mean? And another one, a whole group of people who jumped in together to help someone who had given forth to them for many years. They did this without even asking. It created a circle of gratitude. All right, so we're going to plunge in and see what these are, and you will notice that the commonality among all 3 of these stories is every one of them has a handwritten note in it. I received a handwritten note this week from this church, from our new sunshine lady, Kim Ernie. It meant a lot, a lot. There's just nothing like a handwritten note. All right, okay, so the first one is the bus route. Every morning at 6:10 a.m., Mr. Ramirez started his city bus route. He'd driven the same line for 23 years, past the bakery and the high school and the park and down to the river terminal. Most passengers never looked up from their phones, but he didn't mind. He just made sure everyone got to where they were going safely. There was one regular passenger, though, an elderly woman named Mrs. Green. She always boarded at stop number 12, wearing her bright purple scarf no matter what the weather. Every morning, she'd greet him with a smile and say, "Good morning, Mr. Ramirez. Thank you for the ride." And he'd tip his cap and reply, Always a pleasure, ma'am. It was their small ritual. Then one week, she didn't show up. Not Monday, not Tuesday. By Friday, he found himself looking for that purple scarf every time he turned the corner, but her seat stayed empty. A few days later, as he was finishing his shift, a young woman boarded, holding a small envelope. She asked, "Are you Mr. Ramirez, the driver who's been on this route forever?" He nodded. She smiled softly. "I'm Mrs. Green's granddaughter. My grandmother passed last weekend. She wanted me to give you this." And inside the envelope was a handwritten note. "Dear Mr. Ramirez, thank you for being a part of my mornings all these years. You never knew it, but those rides made me feel safe and cared for and seen. The world needs more people like you who show kindness without needing applause." And below that little note was a small bus-shaped pin. He stared at it for a long time before pinning it to his uniform pocket. From that day on, every time a passenger said thank you, he made sure to look them in the eyes and say, "You're very welcome," because now he understood how much a simple thank you could mean. The broken umbrella. It had been raining for 3 days straight, and Sophia stood under the awning outside her apartment building, staring at her broken umbrella. The metal ribs were bent, the fabric was torn. She had an important interview across town and no time to get a new umbrella. With a sigh, she stepped into the downpour anyway. Her shoes soaked through in seconds. She muttered under her breath, "Of course, perfect timing." Halfway down the block, she noticed a man sitting by the bus stop, wrapped in a plastic trash bag. He had no umbrella. His face was weathered, his clothes were damp, but when she glanced his way, he smiled and said, "Good morning, miss. Some rain, huh?" Sophia hesitated. Something in his tone, something light, almost cheerful, stopped her. She looked at the bent umbrella in her hand and then at him, and without thinking further, she handed it over. "It's not much," she said, "but it's better than nothing." He accepted it with a grin that seemed to brighten the gray morning. "Thank you. You just made my day." She continued on, drenched but oddly lighter. When she reached the office, hair dripping, clothes clinging, she apologized for being late. The interviewer laughed, offered her a towel, and said, "Anyone who walks through a storm to get here clearly doesn't give up easily." She got the job. That evening, as she rode home, Sophia passed the same bus stop. The man was gone, but the broken umbrella leaned neatly against the bench, tied with a bit of twine. A note was tucked inside. "You gave me more than an umbrella today. You reminded me that people still care. I hope the rain brings you good luck. It brought me kindness." Sophia smiled through her tears, and she kept that note pinned above her desk for years, a reminder that gratitude flows both ways, even in a storm. And the pie on Maple Street. Every November, the town of Willow Creek tucked itself beneath a blanket of gold leaves and chimney smoke. The air was full of cinnamon, wood fires, and the chatter of people who'd known each other for generations. Oh, it wasn't a big place, just a main street with a diner, a barber, a hardware store, and Sweet Maple Bakery, run by Nora Jensen. Nora was 58, with silver-streaked hair and hands that always smelled of butter and nutmeg. Her pies were the pride of Willow Creek: pecan, apple, pumpkin, blueberry, all baked with care and something that didn't quite have a recipe. Every Thanksgiving, a line would curl around the block before sunrise, folks clutching coffee cups and sharing stories to keep warm. But this year, something had gone wrong. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Nora's old oven gave out. A groan, a spark, and then silence. The repairman from 3 towns over shook his head. "The part's on back order, Miss Jensen," he said. "Could be a week, could be a month." Nora tried to keep her spirits up, but every morning she came downstairs to that cold, quiet kitchen, her heart sank a little lower. How could she disappoint the people who had supported her bakery through snowstorms, fundraisers, and every school bake sale? Then, one frosty morning, she found a note taped to her bakery door. "Heard about your oven. Bring your ingredients to the firehouse. We've got heat, strong arms, and a few sweet tooths. Chief Doyle." Well, when she arrived, she was stunned. The firehouse kitchen had been cleared for her. Chief Doyle, a broad-shouldered man with a gentle voice, had even set up extra tables. Mrs. Patel, who owned the cafe across the street, brought mixing bowls and spices. The high school baseball team, led by Eli Martin, a polite senior who'd worked part-time at the bakery since freshman year, were already cracking eggs and dusting flour across the counters. "Never thought I'd see the firehouse covered in sugar," Chief Doyle chuckled. "Well, just don't set off your own alarms," Nora teased, tying on her apron. For the next 3 days, the firehouse buzzed with laughter and the warmth of shared purpose. Someone played music on an old radio, and soon the firefighters were humming along while rolling dough. And Mrs. Patel made chai tea for everyone, and Eli carefully measured sugar under Nora's watchful eye. Even Mr. Kramer, the barber, who was known to grumble about everything from the weather to football, wandered in one afternoon with a sack of pecans. "Well, I can't bake, but I can crack nuts," he said. And by the end of the day, his grumbling had turned to soft humming. When the last batch came out of the oven, 30 golden pies cooled on the windowsills. The air smelled so sweet that people walking by the firehouse slowed just to breathe it in. Chief Doyle wiped his hands on a towel. "You know, Nora," he said, "this is the best teamwork we've had all year. Fires are easy, but it's gratitude that takes practice." Nora blinked away tears. "Gratitude?" she repeated softly. "Yes, that's what it is. That's what this is." Thanksgiving morning dawned crisp and bright. The bakery bell jangled before sunrise. Nora's counter was lined with pies, each labeled, "Made with the help of a grateful town." As the morning went on, familiar faces came through the door. Mrs. Patel with her daughter and Mr. Kramer with a grin. Who could believe it? Chief Doyle with a thermos of coffee. Even Eli stopped by on his way to his grandmother's house, cheeks pink from the cold. He handed Nora a folded piece of paper. "Thank you for teaching me that baking is more about people than recipes." She tucked it into her apron pocket and smiled. By noon, every pie was sold, but Nora wasn't tired. She was full in the only way that kindness can fill a person. She took one last pie from the cooling rack and carried it down Maple Street, where she left it on the front porch of Martha Lewis, the town's oldest resident who couldn't make it to the bakery anymore. That evening, as Nora walked home under a sky streaked pink and gold, the scent of pie drifted from every window. She realized it wasn't just her recipe that had made Willow Creek's Thanksgiving special. It was everyone's hands, hearts, and gratitude mixed together. And when she unlocked her bakery door, she found one last note waiting for her on the counter, written in the careful handwriting of Chief Doyle. Gratitude is a circle, Nora. You started it. We just kept it going.